We've all been hurt at some point, even abandoned. Many of us have done the hurting ourselves. We get to the point where we don't trust anyone, nor do we feel worthy of being loved by anyone. Then there's that one person who just doesn't give up on loving you. Their love is unconditional. Their love stays long enough for you to heal. And then they promise to never leave. That's love you can count on. God's love.
Hey everybody, thank you for watching again our PIC TV network. We are on broadcasting right now, and we're so happy for all of you who are watching our broadcast again, to our family, to our friends on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere you're watching, especially with those in Hungary, Brazil, France, Argentina, Nicaragua, United States, Colombia, Mexico, Guatemala, United States, Germany. What's going on, Dennis? Panama, Ireland, Peru, Chile, and the rest of the world. And I'm so happy today to have my team on, my journalists on, and we have also a newcomer on with us today. Big Matt is down the bottom. He's joining us today. I want to thank you for coming in. Patty is all the way from Miami. She's down in the Miami area tonight, shooting us and beaming it in from Miami. Now, she's normally from New York, but she's in Miami doing this presentation, and I'm so happy that she's bringing the Miami sunshine in with us on the broadcast. And then we have the computer lady herself, the public relations person for the PIC TV network. Everybody knows Michelle. Everybody loves Michelle. All the way from Atlanta, Georgia, but she is in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm telling you, having a ball down in Las Vegas. So she drove. We're going to talk about that too. Drove all the way from Atlanta to Las Vegas. And my good friend, Big Matt, is on. Love this dude all the way from Clubhouse. Big Matt, he's going to talk about some things that we're going to get it together on tonight. And we're sending our prayers over to Kimberly. She's normally with us. She said she came down with some throat viruses and she cannot be with us tonight. So our prayers and thoughts are for Kimberly and those in Haiti. We cannot forget our brothers and sisters in Haiti. And let's go right into our topic for tonight. We've been talking about one of the hottest topics in the world, that is America's healthcare crisis. We're facing something that we never faced before, which is COVID-19, the Delta. There's a lot of people still have to get their Medicaid. A lot of people trying to go back and get their prescriptions and the doctor's appointments and things like that. But let's talk about it. There's a whole lot of people, again, going through this health crisis. I'm going to start with Michelle. Michelle, with this crisis we're living in today, there's a lot of senior citizens still trying to struggle to make ends meet. There's a lot of people who lost their jobs. There's a lot of people going through this pandemic with the kids. What do we do in the midst of this crisis, this America's healthcare crisis, Michelle?
Well, the first thing we need to do, number one, is actually acknowledge that we have a crisis. And so once people have acknowledged we have a crisis, now we have to put in things in place to help each other. If you have a neighbor, check on them if you can. If they need a little something, make sure that we're helping each other, because that's the only way we're going to get through this crisis and this pandemic together, is to make sure that, number one, we're checking on each other as we're able to. The other thing is, wear a mask. Look, like I stated this before, regardless of whether or not you want to take the vaccine, because some people you can't, or some people just don't desire to. Wearing a mask helps. It's very effective. Now, for those who don't know it, unfortunately, we just had an eighth grader, just 12 years old, that she passed away. She went to school in Mississippi. They weren't mandating masks. And right after her COVID test came back positive within 24 hours, she passed away. So We know wearing masks helps. We know social distancing helps. We know washing our hands and following the sanitation protocols can help. This is a time when we have to come together as a nation. We can't be divided. It can't be, because healthcare isn't about politics. So if you have seniors in your area, make sure you're call them on the phone. If you don't know the number, walk up to the door. Do you have your medications? Are you okay? You'd be surprised at what maybe some bread and some eggs and milk might do for something. It might not mean anything to you, but it might be a lifesaver to someone else out there. So let's practice kindness and empathy as we look to, number one, band together against a common enemy, and that is this virus. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Delta variant. When we're talking about this Delta variant, we're talking about something in this COVID family that is 6 times more contagious than the original virus because it has a register of 6. COVID or SARS-CoV-2 was only 2 on the contagion scale. So we've gone from a contagion that's 2 on the contagion. That means any person you come in contact with, if you have the virus, you can infect 2 people. Well, with this strain, it's highly contagious like chickenpox. You can infect 6 people if you have COVID. And every person that has COVID can affect 6 people. So you think about it, 6 times 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. That's why this thing is spreading like wildfire. Then we also had a mother that sent a child to school, even though she tested positive and the child is tested positive. And the child exposed 60 other children to this virus. So while we're always talking about what the government should do or this person should do or that person should do, we have a duty to ourselves. Number one, not to do any harm to anyone else. Number 2, to stay safe. And part of staying safe is making sure that wearing a mask. That's a simple ask. I know for some people that feel that their rights and civil liberties are more or better than everybody else, we've passed that point now. We have to work together. That's the only way we're going to survive, and we're going to stop literally killing children right now because it's affecting younger people. We have 30-year-olds, and I've got folks in the healthcare that they're telling us 30-year-olds are coming into the hospital and they're not making it. Younger people are not surviving this virus, and they not having any pre-existing conditions. This new Delta variant is very, very serious. So if you don't want to get vaxxed, you don't want to wear a mask, try to stay away from people if you can. All we're wanting to do is we can contain this healthcare crisis, but it's going to take each and every one of us doing our part. All right, Patricia, what do you think? To you.
Well, Michelle, this is my question to you. Like you said, it's not about politics, but we know that. But there are people out there that don't believe that. And that's okay. You can believe whatever you want. But the truth is, regardless whether it's politics or not, it's still a live virus. It's still contaminating people. It still can kill you, whether a politician decided to put it out or not. And now this is not that topic that we're talking about. We're not talking politics. But if you are out there believing that politicians did this, guess what? It doesn't matter because the results are the same. People are dying. So if you don't want people dying, put a mask on. And that's what I have to say about it. You know, I wish, just like you said, we could just take the politics out of this because the results are the same. It's contaminating and people are really dying. Okay, so stop it. Stop the nonsense and put a mask on. At least when you're indoors. When you're outdoors, of course, we know that outdoors it's not necessary unless you're in a place with a lot of people that are, you know, shoulder to shoulder, then maybe you should put your mask on outside too. But for the most part, we're talking about indoors here. you know? And it's really crazy that there are innocent people, like children that are under 12, they're innocent victims because they can't even get vaccinated, even if their parents are doing the right thing. Now those poor kids are being exposed, and it's almost like, you know, committing manslaughter. That's how I look at it. Because if you're not wearing a mask and you just don't care, then you're putting a 12-year-old, like that poor girl that died. That's just not right. And you know what? That's ridiculous. Just man up. That's what I say. Over to you, Michelle.
All right, Matt, what do you think?
Well, Michelle, Patricia, I'm a firm believer of people having to wear the masks. I don't know why, in certain, situations, people are not taking advantage of what is out there for us to protect us, doing our parts, getting the shots. I have the shots. Everybody in my family has the shots. One of my children right now is a position where we're not sure if he's going to be able to get the shot or not. So, obviously we're concerned because we want to make sure that, he's cared for. People are going back to school in our area. They're mandating the masks to be worn in class, teachers and students. Personally, I don't understand why people can't just do their part. If somebody doesn't want to get vaccinated, that is their right, and I understand that. But if you're in a social setting and there's going to be a lot of people there and you're going to be closer than 6 feet, I believe you should wear your mask. I think everybody should do their part. That's my thought on it.
Thank you, Matt. Dr. Evans, what about you? What do you think? And how are things going in DC with the mask? Are they mandating masks? What's going on in the nation's capital? Fill us in.
Yeah, it's a lot going on here. I have mixed emotions about where we are in time, Big Matt, and I want to get into it with you and Michelle and Patty. We always talk about this. I don't know. I don't know. I've been on the planet for 59 years. I've never seen nothing like this. Last year, this time, my sister Brenda was alive. The last Sunday last year, she passed away. So many of you. Michelle lost 50 people last year. I asked Michelle because I didn't never had COVID. Is it real? She said, yes, it's real. Taking a shot is better than going to the grave and not knowing what to do. I believe that we're in a time now we have to do what we have to do as far as protecting each other. Last week you talked about, Michelle, we lost more people than both wars together. That's a lot of folk who gone from the planet. Unbelievable. We have to do everything we can do. I asked Michelle a couple of weeks ago, could this have been better before the president changes the administration? She said, maybe it could have. When my sister passed away last year, Patty and Big Matt, the ride from her house where she was staying was 10 minutes from Washington Hospital Center. They didn't have any beds. So they had to take her to Howard University Hospital, which was 30 minutes away. She never made it. It's one of those times where we all have to do what we have to do. We are brothers keepers. We have to watch out for one another. We have to do whatever we can to help each other. I wanted to ask Big Mac before we go back. Mac, you have kids, man. My kids are grown. My oldest son is in California. My youngest son has graduated from high school. I was nervous when he was getting on that bus to go to Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. God knows how I would feel now in the midst of COVID, leaving him up there or putting him on the bus. Come on, Big Matt. Let's talk about this. How you feel raising kids in the midst of COVID? Come on, Big Matt. Yeah, you gotta unmute. You gotta unmute. I think he's still muted. I think he's still muted. Okay. There you go. You're able to talk now. Come on, Matt.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
How do you feel raising kids in the midst of COVID, in the midst of the Delta, raising your kids?
I mean, obviously, I don't feel good about it. I didn't grow up like this. Last year, we made the choice in the area where we live in Bergen County, New Jersey. It's very densely populated. And for us, they gave us a choice where people could be remote or they could be a hybrid, and they could go in for 2-3 days, half days, and then they could be at home as well. And we wanted our kids to be safe, and I didn't want my children. I was hoping, praying that they would be able to get this thing under control. So for us, my kids wouldn't go back to school and be contained in a plastic box with other kids in the classroom. And this year they're going back to school. My one child graduated. He's going to be doing the first part of his college career remotely, so he's not too upset about that. My other son, who's still in school, is concerned, with going back to school and wearing a mask and being around his peers. But he needs that social interaction, and I feel like the children. He went into sixth grade, so he went into a new school. So the whole sixth grade from his first career of being in that new school, was robbed because of the virus. And, sports is another thing. So having this new variant that's out there, and Michelle was hitting it, obviously, the nail on the head and saying that, it's so much more than the regular, the virus itself. And I feel like people feel like I got the virus or I got the shot, so COVID is a thing of the past. And that's not the case. And, am I always careful? No, I'm probably not always careful. I'll be the first to admit it. But if I'm in a situation that's densely populated, I'm going to wear my mask. If I feel like, there's going to be a situation where there's a possibility it's going to be densely populated. It's like having your cell phone. It's like having your car keys with you. Just carry a mask with you. And if you're worried about the mask being dirty, go get those boxes with 50 masks in it, put them in your car. And if you go in a situation and you feel uncomfortable or you see other people wearing masks, I hate to see it. And if you want to feel left out or whatever, or you don't want to be an outcast, put a mask on. But I've seen these situations where people have these events, and it's scary. And there's definitely probably more over the number that's actually allowed to be, at these events. And a lot of things are opening up again. So I'm a little hesitant still to go to more live events based on what I do for a living. So I'm trying to still do, a lot of things virtual, especially with my education. That's what I think.
Thank you, Big Matt. New Jersey's in. I want to go back to Patty. Patty, you're in Miami, Florida tonight. You from New York. You have your daughter there, dropping her off for her career and what she's doing. It's a beautiful place. We talked about that earlier today. But safety-wise, how do you prepare mentally yourself and your daughter in the midst of this COVID, in the midst of this Delta with your daughter, Patty?
Well, last time I heard the numbers, which was only like about a day ago, Florida has, I believe about 40 or more percent. Michelle might be able to confirm that with me, but approximately Florida is high numbers. And I was very unsettled coming here. Of course, we wore our mask in the airplane and the airport, but to my surprise, I was elated to see when we were out all day, getting stuff for her new apartment. everybody was wearing a mask. So I was happy to see. And somebody had told her coworkers had said by the university, at the University of Miami, they're all wearing masks. It's more predominantly wearing masks, but that's only here in Miami. Obviously, other parts of Florida are not doing the same. I don't believe the other parts of Florida are really on the same page like that. But this is what I feel about this whole thing. You know what? I feel like the people, we're kind of like the children. I feel like we need those regulations enforced, whether we like it or not, because rules are for our well-being. Just like when children have rules, right? I just don't know other way to make it metaphorically. So that's why I'm using children for an example. We give children rules. Why? For their safety. And they don't always like the rules. A lot of times they think they're mean and they don't understand. But I feel like, us, the people, we need rules. We need rules, and it's up to, we count on our government to make those rules so we could have order, right? And safety and justice. And I really feel like, you know what? I don't want to shut down people. Please don't get upset with me. I don't want to shut down. But you know what? They should mandate put the mask on if you're in a public place. I mean, come on. Let's do this. Come on, let's do this for the sake of humanity. Over to you, Dr. Evans. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, it's real. Those who are watching us, watching the PIC TV network, we have a special presentation we're doing today, talking to people around the world. Those who are watching with us, we have Michelle, who's on. She is our public relations person from Atlanta, Georgia, but she's coming in from Las Vegas. We have Big Matt. He's from New Jersey, beaming it in from New Jersey. We have Patty from New York, but she's in Miami with her daughter. I want to talk to Patty, Michelle, before we go to a commercial break. Michelle, you mentioned some safety things we should be doing: wearing a mask, washing our hands. There's always going to be people who are out there who do the opposite. I was in the store yesterday buying some stuff at the Family Dollar store. A man walked in without a mask. They start arguing. The person who was at cash register saying, "Get out of here. You don't supposed to be here. You don't supposed to be in here. I'm calling the police." I was like, is something going to pop off? And immediately I got up and I walked away. Something just said, "Get up and get out." I went up and I walked out. I left. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do, Michelle, when things like that happen? What do you do? Come on, Michelle.
Well, let's think about it, Dr. Evans. The one thing that we know is our mental health is suffering because of the pandemic. A lot of people are questioning societal norms, things that they used to. And you also talk about people that, as a country, we're individualists. We believe in our individual liberties. But our liberties and our rights stop where somebody else's began. Because just because you can go into a theater and yell fire doesn't mean that it's proper, and doesn't mean that you won't get a fine or go to jail. Same thing with seatbelt laws. Just because you can not wear a seatbelt, but if you get into a crash and you get killed, it's still your fault. Seatbelts, we know, save lives. These masks are saving lives. Now, you asked me to talk about some other ways to help keep yourself safe. Washing your hands for 20 seconds. So this is how we teach the kids. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And they would sing 2 or 3 rounds of that. And this would help them wash their hands properly. They have even a hand washing song. The other thing, these are one use. These type of masks, they're one use. That means after you use them, you throw them in the garbage can, you get another one, like Dr. Evans said. Buy them by the box, they're $6.99. Now, I want everybody to understand there's some sanitation protocols that we have not enacted in the United States, but they've enacted in China and other countries. But one of them you can enact yourself. When you go out, before you go out, make sure that number one, you're covered. I always spritz Lysol around me. I spritz it in my car. I keep 3 large containers of Lysol, the spray. The other thing is when you come back, spray the bottom of your shoes and don't wear your shoes in the house, because the one thing we know about COVID is it gets into the throat and into the nasal passages. And what do you do when you have a cold? You and a lot of times people spit on the ground. Well, if you're walking in that spit or you're walking in any of those secretions, you can track the virus into your home. So the best thing to do is not wear shoes in your house. If you're wearing them, take them off at the door, spray them with Lysol, wipe them down, throw that the paper towel that you use to wipe them down in the garbage, and take that garbage out. This will help mitigate some of the dangers of that. Also, plan your trips. If you got to go to the grocery store, go to the grocery store in off-peak hours where it's not really, really busy. If you see someone or you're in and they don't have a mask, just go in the opposite direction. You be masked up. You be the person with integrity. Because the thing about it is, there are people that no matter what you say, no matter what any doctors say, they won't believe it. They won't believe it, and they'll be like this 30-year-old that, because I got a sister friend that works in Houston, and she's like, he's on the deathbed and he's asking for the vaccine, and then it's too late. And you're going to always have people like that, and there's nothing you can do for people that decide that I don't want to have the vaccine, I don't want to wear a mask. And they're basically telling you they'll go through whatever consequence there is, and if they die, they die. But you keep yourself safe. Now, what I also tell people, don't argue with people. You're not going to change their mind. The only thing you can do is walk in your purpose. It's like when Jesus came, people didn't believe, but Jesus never argued with the people. He told them the truth, and he lived his life in truth. And that's what we have to do. We have to live our life and be in our integrity. Do we make mistakes? Like Big Matt said, I try to be masked and run these protocols all the time because I have sarcoidosis in my lungs, which is an autoimmune disease. If I catch COVID, I have a 98% chance of dying. That's just facts. I also had breast cancer and I had a hip fracture. So I'm not going to put myself at risk when a mask can help me. Yes, I've been vaxxed. Yes, I will be taking the booster shot. For those that don't want to, we're not telling you to go down that road, but we're asking everybody in kindness, in empathy, and in unity, let's work together to eradicate COVID, because that's the enemy. We're not each other's enemy. If any time that we should be unified right now is fighting this disease, and we have to work with our alliance partners in other countries, the WHO, and all those people, and we have to come together to fight the disease and not each other. Dr. Evans, back to you.
You know, I always enjoy hearing the wisdom of Michelle, and people around the world do too. We're going to come back after this commercial break, and we're going to talk about preparation for what may happen. We're facing a winter we never faced before. We have gatherings that's coming up, big events like Thanksgiving. Is it time to come together, or do we still follow protocol? Christmas, millions of people shopping again. The flu, we want to be prepared. We don't want to wait until they announce something. So we're going to come back and talk about that right after our commercials. Thank you for watching the PIC TV network, everybody. We're beaming it in again from Washington, D.C. to Miami, Florida, to Las Vegas, to New Jersey. And we'll be right back right after this. Hello, everybody. This is David Evans once again from the Washington, D.C. We're here at the PIC TV network giving you some information. We have a hot topic. This is really number 3 on our topic, America's health care crisis. There's millions of people watching us around the world right now, and we're facing a time that we never faced. We're going into a season that we never faced before. 9/11. And Patty's from New York. She's going to be doing something special from there. We from Washington, D.C., the Pentagon. Then we're talking about going into the season of Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, time of gathering. People are more out on the inside. The weather starts to change. Right behind me is one of the most powerful places on the planet. This is the White House. Right behind me in the White House, that little statue is the Capitol. On both sides of is the building in Washington, D.C. I've been here all my life. There's a lot going on, and people are making decisions that eventually is going to affect all of our life if it hasn't already done before. So we want to pray for those in authority and leadership. I want to go back into it with Michelle for a minute, then I'm going to go to Patty, and then I'm going to go to Big Matt, and we have Arthur Gina just joined us. In the midst of this crisis that we're going into, Michelle, we don't want to be in a situation where people are panicking because something has taken place that they wasn't ready for. I'm starting to stack up on toilet paper. I'm starting to stack up on more wipes. I got chicken, everything is full. But you told me last time when there was this gas problem and the gas line was hacked, you said, don't panic, David, don't panic. I put $60 worth of gas in my car because I didn't know. I just reacted from the situation. Lines you were talking about, it was in Atlanta, you couldn't go, was 25 miles and all the gas stations filled. Should we go on alert now, Michelle? And we don't want to be in that chaos situation. And then those who make the toilet paper, they're gonna be making more because they learned from the last experience. So I want you to get into this for a minute, Patty, Michelle, about how this wave may go, this roller coaster may go, and we're riding on the roller coaster. Come on, Michelle.
Well, let's think about it. Now, you said we haven't been here before, but we actually have. We've been here when we had chickenpox was an outbreak when I was a kid, and rubella. So those were 2 situations where, because of the contagion level, we had to lock down. Now, American has been here before our time, and we're talking about the Spanish flu of 1919, which killed over 1 million people just in the United States. Again, they didn't learn their lesson either, and they opened too fast once they thought they had gotten it tamped down. The one thing about any type of bacterial or viral infection, what will happen? It can always have a breakthrough, and it has a breakthrough when people aren't vaccinated or they try to do what we call herd immunity. That doesn't always work because, as you well know, there are some people that are going to succumb to this very rapidly, but they're going to be people that are asymptomatic. That means they don't have any symptoms and they are spreading this. And because they can not only just spread it to 2 people now, they can spread it to 6 people. The differences are amazing when you're talking about every person that can get it can spread it to 6 times 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. Then think about it. You can catch it more than one time. There have been people that have caught it multiple times. Now, we talk about the vaccine. I just want to give you a little information about the vaccine. The vaccine is 95% effective. Birth control is also 95% effective if used properly. So the vaccine with the mask, with social distancing, is 95% effective. Well, birth control is also 95% effective if we're using it properly, doing what they say. But that means 5% of people can get infected, right? Or 5% of people can get pregnant. Well, 99% of the people that aren't getting vaccinated are the ones that are getting sick in hospitals. 1% of the people that are vaccinated can and have gotten it. I'll take my chances with having a mask and a shot with that 99%. Now, away from that, let's talk about supplies. I've been a person that has always, and I mean always, had a supply of food and back, because I've had kids and grandkids and I never know when they're going to visit. So I always cooked up a lot of extra stuff. So I've always been a person that has bought in bulk. I come from a family of 6 kids, 2 adults. You always buy in bulk because you're always running out. And so as an adult, I never got where I pared back from buying small amounts. Now, should you panic? Panic is never the answer. Should you start to stock up on staples, rice, beans, coffee, if you drink coffee, teas, honey, those kind of things? Buy as much toilet paper as you think you're going to use for the next year. I still have a whole supply. I have a year's supply. I have enough paper towels. The question is, then once you've gotten yours and you're good, your pantry's good, what are you going to do to help others? Because that's where I am right now. I am looking out for other people that might not have it. The other thing we did during this pandemic was we were able to go out during the winter and help people feed the homeless. Hot soup, things that can keep the virus down. Hot soup, hot tea, hot coffee. Keeping your throat clear is one of the ways. So should people panic? Absolutely not. Should they be buying the necessities just in case there's a lockdown? Absolutely. Will there be a lockdown? We don't know. But the thing about it is, and I want to say to every governor, I don't care if you're Democratic, I don't care if you're Republican, I don't care if you're independent. Masks save lives. They do. And for all of you that want to make COVID a political issue, it is not. This is a health issue. We have the right, number one, to live and breathe without catching disease. We have the right to make sure our children are protected. So stop making it a political issue. It's not. It's a life issue. Miss Gina Gatson down there from Alabama, what do you think about this? Are you getting ready for a shutdown? Are your pantries full?
Well, I always keep my pantries full anyway, but I'm not too sure that it's going to be another lockdown. I think that once they remove the mask mandates and everybody came out of the house, I think it's going to be very difficult to get the masses back in the house and lock down again. It's going to be very difficult because people were waiting to get out, and now that they're out, they don't want to go back to that. But to prepare, I say prepare for the worst regardless, because we don't know what direction it's going to go in. So you don't want to be caught with your pants down. So you still want to prepare whether or not we have that shutdown or not. Just be ready.
Patricia, what do you think? Are you preparing? Is your cupboard full, or you're like the rest of it? You stay on ready. Unmute. You can go ahead and unmute, Patricia.
Oh, there you go. So yes, I believe in preparedness, but I can't say like I'm overstocked a year's worth. But you were so spot on. You were spot on, because it's true. You can't get in that like I'm scared mode, because preparedness is a good thing. You should always be prepared, just like you get a fire alarm for your house. Hopefully you never have a fire, but it's good to be prepared, right? So preparedness is really key, but also don't be scared, because this also kind of goes into that healthcare crisis. Besides COVID, the mental health care, people have totally went downhill for so many reasons. People just were not able to go forward with their lives because they got so scared. So I feel like that is not good either. You can't get scared. You just have to be proactive and do what you need to do. And I'm a testimony. You know, I work with clients hands on, and I went back as soon as we were allowed to go back, and I prayed, but I also washed my hands. I put my mask on. I was lucky that I never transmitted the COVID. And, you know, I couldn't, but then I talked to so many people that had family members that never left their house. Their whole mental state of mind completely went downhill. And that's not good for anybody, because you can't help your friends, you can't help yourself, you can't help your family. So you can't be stuck on scared. You just got to be proactive. And another thing I want to talk about, Michelle, maybe you could ask Matt, or you want to answer this. You know what? How about all those myths? All those myths out there. There's so many myths out there about the COVID and the variant. You know what? We got to get those myths under control and find out your facts. Find your facts. And over to you, Michelle. What do you think about that?
Well, Matt, just like Patricia said, can we talk about some of the myths that people, or some of the untruths that are going around, and how we can, number one, start to circumvent that? Because once we take that out of the air, I think, like Patricia says, maybe that will help. But the other thing we know is there are people that will believe a lie before they believe the truth. Matt, what do you think?
Well, Michelle, I have to tell you that I'm concerned as far as, you know, some of the myths of that either the government is talking about or the general population is talking about, as far as wearing a mask, not wearing a mask, washing your hands, not washing your hands. I will say this, and it always comes out as a joke, but I mean it sincerely. When everything started, about, you know, we're going on almost, I don't know, a year and a half, almost 2 years, feels like, with everything that's going on. When my wife and I would go to the grocery store in the beginning, people wearing masks. And then I was like, wait, what's going on? Why are people wearing masks? So I really wasn't tuned into it too much. My wife's like, you gotta listen to the news more. So I don't like the news. News scares me. And the news scares me because they put so much crap on the news, because it's kind of like they're going to push you in a direction where they want you to believe things are happening and things are moving. So, and then I started wearing my mask because everybody else was wearing the mask. But I have to tell you, like, can the mask really help? Can it not help? Does it get the shot? The shot's going to help. It's not going to help. So I'm concerned, because I almost feel like sometimes we're flying on autopilot, and we're hoping and praying that everything that gets thrown out there is going to save us. The reality is, I think everybody should just do their part and wash your hands correctly. It's not that big of a deal to wear a mask. And if it is a big deal for you, then you might have to change careers, unfortunately, because right now, like, we are in the midst of the possibility of another round coming into the fall, where it's going to potentially try to cause a shutdown. But I will tell you this, it is my firm belief, that if we actually go into another shutdown, we as the United States are going to be in serious trouble. I know they're talking about extending unemployment. I know they're talking about, you know, different checks that they want to send out to homeowners and stuff like that. The reality is, and people get annoyed when I say this, the first time around, people should have took this more serious than it really was, and they didn't. Because they didn't, this virus is able to what is it called?
Mutate.
Mutate, exactly, into something even worse than it was originally. So I hope to God that people either take this serious or step aside and stay in their house, move to another country, whatever it is. The end result is this. People are saying that this is much like, catching a flu. I don't agree with it. And that's a myth, in my opinion, as far as like what they're saying. It could be, it can't be. I don't think there's enough information out there for people to really understand. I think they move fast and furious with the vaccine in hopes that it's going to knock things out or slow things down. But I guess my concern is, as a myth, it's not even a myth. I guess it's more of a question than anything else. And Michelle, maybe you're the most qualified to answer this. Are we just listening to what the government is telling us to do in hopes that everything is going to be okay? I mean, we're literally putting our children, our families at risk by getting the shot, but we're also at risk by not getting the shot. So it's kind of like, for me, I'm 50, so half my life is already over. But I got an 18-year-old and I got a 13-year-old now. So we got two teenagers in the house. Am I wrong to force the shot on them and say, you got to get this shot? Or do I shelter them and hope to God that in another year from now, things will be back to semi-normal? Unfortunately, the new normal of what it's going to be. Are they going to come out with different shots, different variants? Is it going to be a pill? Like, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm scared that if they do another shutdown, what is it going to do to our economy? What is it going to do to the stock market as far as raising the prices of stock? I mean, I have Home Depot stock. My Home Depot stock is like 7 times more, in my opinion, to what it's really worth. Housing prices, if anybody's actually Googled my name, which is Matthew Marinoff, my information's right there. You see what I do for a living. I've been in distressed real estate for 16 years. I am petrified of what's going to happen when they open up the moratorium on the foreclosures and let the dam open up. It's not going to happen right away. Is it going to be like 2007, 2008? I don't think it's going to be like that, but I think it's going to have a little bit of an aroma of that time. It's not the mortgage side. It's the fact that there was already foreclosure properties. Now we're working on another wave. So there's so much information that's out there, and I apologize for talking so much about this, but I am absolutely petrified for homeowners that really don't know what their options are. The government's not talking about it. They told homeowners, call your bank. They'll put you in a deferment. It wasn't deferment. It was a forbearance. People were not informed properly. The banks are actually getting fined for the information that they gave homeowners. A lot of money, but that doesn't help the person in trouble. So as far as the myths are concerned, my myth is, I don't know if people really realize how bad the housing market is going to be if we go into another shutdown and we have the issues with the renters, we have the landlords, the investment properties, and regular people. People are paying $50, $100, $150,000 more than the actual house is worth. How can people not see this as a catastrophe, that something's going to hit or cause an issue in the next 2-3 years from now? So I don't know. I don't even know what to say at this point.
Well, let's think about it and let's take it by the numbers, because you bring up a lot of really good questions and a lot of really good statements. So, number one, the housing market of 2007, 2008, and I actually was telling people that it was going to crash. One, because anytime you have a lot of speculators in the market and they can make the prices inflated, and then you have people buying properties on what we call stated income. It's not the income that they were making. It's the income that they wrote down on the paper that they were making. Then they had these balloon mortgages. But the subprime market was not because the actual lenders were asking for it. And when I'm talking about regular people like us. The banks wanted it because it was so profitable. That's where it is. And it's always greed is what takes our markets down and brings them up. So when we talk about the greed factor here, that's one of the problems. The same thing with the virus. You're going to always have people that are going to exploit other people. The exploitation is when we talk about this virus. Okay, sometimes the way the media portrays things, it causes panic. Sometimes the way the government questions, not questions, answers, not answers. But the thing about it is, let's think. And I mean think, and I'm talking about each and every one of us critically. The government does not have to tell me that there's something bad outside because I can smell it. The government doesn't have to tell me to put the mask on because I need to save my life. But at the same time, should they be giving us mixed messages? Absolutely not. But we know that they're human and fallible. So conventional wisdom is number one. What's the best solution individually? Well, I know one thing that works. This has been working because if it wasn't working, they wouldn't be wearing it in the hospitals when they do surgery. So it works. Mask, gloves, sanitation protocols work. But the government also knows, and everybody wants to avert a shutdown. So they say. For all the people that talk about the government better not shut down and I'm not wearing a mask and I'm not vaccinating, here's the deal. If you don't want to shut down, help us avert the shutdown by wearing a mask, even if you don't vax. It's one of the simplest ways to help. The other thing is washing your hands. Let's talk about Typhoid Mary. Typhoid Mary did not believe in hand washing. She spread typhoid to 150 people who went around, and typhoid is just as deadly as this COVID. It's like the bubonic plague, and it spread, but it all came from her working in a restaurant and not washing her hands. So one thing we know, washing hands save. Mask save. You don't want to vax, that's fine. But if you don't want this country to go into a shutdown, you want to make sure we have the financial resources, then stop fighting against us and fight against COVID. Wear the darn mask. Dr. Evans, back to you.
Yeah, you know, when I hear you guys and you get Patty back in, it's one of those situations where God help us, because we don't know. Living in the most powerful city in the world, it's where the president stays. It's where the laws are passed, right on Capitol Hill. I know they're dealing with something that they don't know, and they don't know all the answers, because if they did, they would be solved. Secondly is they can't do it without us. We have to all, again, band together to fight as one. What was those figures and numbers again, Michelle, that how many people died versus the war?
Well, the figures are, Dr. Evans, number one, more people have died of COVID than all the wars that we have fought from World War I up to now. We literally, in this country alone, 700,000 deaths. Worldwide, you're talking about 3 million people have passed away. And this Delta variant is not playing, because as soon as they recognize it in India, 17 million people were infected within 3 weeks. 17 million. So you got to think about it. And remember, we don't have a ban on travel, people coming back forth here and there. So if it's hard in another country, well, people have come there back to the United States. Yes, that's how viruses travel. They travel in us and on us.
That's amazing.
Again, well, it has a contagion level of 6. The original COVID SARS-V2 had a contagion level of 2. That means if you had it, you could only spread it to 2 other people. Now it has a contagion level of 6. That means just like smallpox, just like chickenpox, just like measles, it spreads 50% faster than the original version of COVID. That means one person can infect 6, and then those other 6 people can infect 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. That's why this thing is going so fast.
Michelle, can I ask you a question?
Sure, you can. Go ahead, Matt.
Do you think that the numbers are 100% accurate?
I think they're underrepresented, actually.
So you think the numbers are higher?
Yes, they always are. They tend to try to downplay things because they don't want us panic. I do think the numbers are higher. I think more people are dying from it than what they're stating. It always happens that way. And that's one of the reasons that we have to make sure that we use care, especially now that it's affecting children. Children are getting Kawasaki's disease, and it's featuring as other diseases, and it's COVID. And so we have to be really, really careful right now of how this disease is mutating. Because if it gets to a point where it's mutating and our vaccine is not keeping up, yeah, it's not going to be good. Because you think about places like Haiti, they just had an earthquake, 7.2. So they are already dealing with this. And then they have to deal with the aftermath of earthquake, the death, and then all these bodies. Well, the bodies, dead or alive, are still carrying this virus. That's why in the early stages of this, people were going to funerals. The bodies, even dead, were exposing people to the virus. That's what people have to think about.
Michelle, I want to ask a question too from Washington, D.C. Thank you, Big Matt. And I'll bring Patty and Gina back in a second. Michelle, I try to go through my day, get up, eat my breakfast, and check on the news. And those who watching from listening to us from Clubhouse, we just had Clubhouse in an audio version of this. We've got people in there over there. Thank you. Michelle, you are up on things. You read, you study, you're looking at the news, you're keeping abreast on the hospitals. I don't. I want to say, Michelle, I don't. I'm sad to say, I don't know about all the hospitals being full. And what are the things that you see before the big wave hit? You study this method, Michelle, and you come with the facts. Is that one of the things that we should watch because the hospitals are filling up again? And
that's exactly right, because that's the biggest hallmark. We're getting more and more, and the thing about it is the patients are getting younger. They're not old. These are the patients are getting younger. Now, nationwide, 11% of the hospital beds have been COVID patients. Now that's filling up. The biggest state that has the most COVID hospitalizations, Florida. Behind Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, Hawaii, and Oregon. Again, not what I think. I'm telling you the facts. Anytime you start to see hospitalizations, and especially the younger people that are unvaccinated, these are striking areas where the governor says, I don't want a mask mandate. The governor says, oh, don't worry about being vaccinated. Well, you have to ask the governor, and I'll ask any governor who wants to come on the show, are you vaccinated while you're telling somebody else not to vaccinate? The question is stop being selfish and stop playing politics with healthcare. There's nothing wrong with us loving each other enough to say we're going to fight this virus and not each other. Now, Gina, what do you think about some of the statistics, and are you seeing hospitalizations rise in your home state?
Absolutely. I mean, I can go down the list of family members and friends that have had COVID or passed away from COVID. And, you know, I just don't feel confident that we will ever catch up with this virus, for the simple fact what they're studying is the previous version of what's going on. So when that virus mutates, they're studying the previous version of that virus, which is why we have the Delta now. Because when that vaccine came out, They were studying the original virus that came out. Now it has mutated. So now the vaccine is out. We have another version of it that the vaccine is not doing anything for. And it's going to continue like that. It's going to always be a step ahead of what they're looking at and what they're trying to create a vaccine for. The virus will always be a step ahead because it's going to continue to mutate. And I'll send it back to you, Michelle.
It's amazing, you know. Every time we get into this topic, it keeps going on. I mean, we like a roller coaster. We get up there and it goes down. It's so good. I know everybody's watching. We're gonna have to go out this segment, and we're gonna go into our next segment. Those who are watching the PIC TV network, our world news report. I want to thank Dina for coming in. Louisiana. Thank you, Patty, all the way from New York, and you in Miami, having a good time taking your daughter there. Michelle is with us all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, but she is in Las Vegas, Big Mac, New Jersey, our friend. Listen, we're going to close out this segment, and we're going to go into part 2. So those who come in, all these comments, we got people all over the country popping in, checking in. This is a hot topic. And those in Clubhouse, thank you, Dan. We see you checking in from Clubhouse. He's listening on the audio version of this. Thank you so much. And we're going to close out this segment. And I wish we could have Dan to say something. That would be amazing. Dan from Clubhouse. Let me see if Dan wanted to give a comment on Clubhouse. He's in the room today listening. I guess we ought to bring him in on the audio version of it. But all of you guys, thank you so much. We're going to close out this segment, and we're going to come into our next segment. And we'll see you on the next segment on the PIC TV Network World News. Thank you for your time. We'll be right back in the next segment.